Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2099. What happens on a Saturday afternoon when two vagabonds, traveling across the country in a little tiny trailer, call you and say, hey, we need a place to eat? You're about to find out. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I have two very special returning guests by the name of Tom Cotter and Michael Allen Ross. Tom, Michael, welcome back to Cars Yeah. Do you guys have any gear? And are you ready to release the clutch?
How you doing, Mark?
Good.
Hey, Mark, we're ready. We're more than ready. We're on a roll.
On a roll. Yeah. This for you listeners, just a little heads up. This is going to be a little interesting. Two characters here. You've heard them on the show before. And, I wanted to go back real quickly because Tom was the first one on this show, Michael. He was guest number 119. We're up to 2,095 now. That was back in November 2014. And then Michael Allen Ross said, well, wait. Tom's been on. I want to be on. So he was guest number 218 in 2015. And then Tom and Michael both said, well, we want to be on together. So you guys came back 835 back in 2017. And then Tom kind of left you aside and he came back on with Bill Warner, guest number 620. So yeah, you guys are kind of making this a habit, aren't you?
Yeah, we can't stay away from each other.
Every time. Yeah, when we appear on your show, our ratings go way up, and checks just literally
fly in the
checks
door.
just show up in the mailbox.
So does that mean, as your secretary, I'll explain this in a minute, I will start getting paid finally? Is that what it means, Tom?
Well, yeah, we'll run it past the board and see what they decide.
The board. I'll tell you, listeners, something weird happens here. I get an email like every week from somebody trying to find Tom Cotter, and they think for some reason he lives with me because I get an email saying, dear Tom, so I forward it because I don't give away my guest's secret information or contacts, and I forward it to him and say, here's another one. And he says, gee, thanks, Mark. You're a nice secretary. And that's just kind of become a regular thing around here.
Yeah, well, I do appreciate it. And as usual, I'll send you a box of chocolate-covered cherries at Christmas time.
Well, I appreciate that, but when you were here, you left me something a little cooler, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But tell you what, guys, in fact, my neighbor's been coming over, peeking in my window, trying to pilfer that bottle of rum you left here. I'm going to give you guys an introduction, and we're going to dive into what you've been up to, because you two characters, oh my gosh, you've been having fun. So bear with me. I'm going to give you a little introduction here. Tom Cotter and Michael Allen Ross are in the middle of America's greatest road trip, a 7,000-mile adventure they started in Key West, Florida, and it's taking them to Deadhorse, Alaska. They've been driving in a new Ford Bronco and pulling an Airstream trailer. These two characters are enjoying our country's two-lane back roads, looking for cool cars and interesting enthusiasts. Tom is an author of many books. He's writing his 18th automotive book. He's the host of Haggerty's Barn Find Hunter, and is currently restoring a 1964 Lotus Elan. Sorry about that. Michael is, I had to dive that in. I've had a Lotus. Michael is a well-known automotive photographer and is documenting their journey. These two automotive enthusiasts, they gave me a call last Saturday and they showed up in my driveway with their Bronco and their trailer, and they had their first non-peanut butter dinner here with my wife, Jill. I hear they've been eating a lot of peanut butter sandwiches. We hosted them at our home at the Cars Yeah headquarters. We had a delicious Pacific Northwest meal, some fine wine, awesome conversation, and they finally got to sleep in some Brio beds that night. So I think we spoiled them a little bit. And we're going to be talking about revealing some secrets exposed in Tom's new book titled Secrets of the Barn Find Hunter. We'll be back in just a minute, but first a word from our sponsors. They put the food on the table. Tom doesn't, because I haven't gotten a check from him yet. We will be right back. Covercraft's newest 3-layer all-climate cover is especially engineered for moderate weather conditions, and it's treated with an extra UV-resistant formula. It's soft, it's breathable, and it's easy to store, all while pampering your paint, providing maximum UV, rain, and dust protection. If you live where it's windy, no worries. Simply add their gust guards for windy conditions to add extra protection to keep your cover in place. Your 3-layer all-climate cover is custom-tailored with Covercraft's attention to detail, form and fit with the quality and attention to detail that's been their tradition since 1965. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. Every one of my vehicles is protected with a Covercraft cover. And I have a deal for you. Use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, and you'll get 10% off your Covercraft order plus free shipping. That's right. So get 10% off with free shipping by simply using the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. The great Dale Carnegie said, "Knowledge isn't power until it's applied." Zengen is an oil analysis kit that allows you to sample your engine's oil and gain valuable knowledge about your engine's inner health. Get your knowledge with a personalized, detailed Zengen report today. At only $39.95 and free shipping both ways, your Zengen oil analysis costs less than an oil change and not only provides you with the knowledge of the inner workings of your engine, but then empowers you with options to avoid costly repairs or future breakdowns. Their easy-to-use sample kit takes less than 5 minutes to collect your sample and mail it back to the world-class labs. In only 5 days, they'll send you a link to your very own engine score via email. Your report measures 30 different data points, including lubricants, metals, contamination, additives, and a whole lot more. Zengen gives you knowledge, empowering you to avoid a future problem. One of those that you never knew was coming. Father's Day is coming, and Zengen gives Dad the gift of knowledge. What a gift. Give your dad his very own Zengen oil kit today, and you'll make him smile. Visit ZengenScore.com and order your oil test kit. Use the code CARSYEAH20, and they'll give you 20% off your first 2 kits. Preventative knowledge and maintenance could save you thousands, and you'll rest better at night knowing your engine's condition is A-OK or maybe needs a little help. That's ZengenScore.com and use the code CARSYEAH20 today. When it was time to renew my collector car policy, my carrier raised my rates by a lot. But why? My usage was the same, my car's value was the same, and I had never made a claim. I didn't even have a ticket. The only change was their rate, and they had no reason why. What's with that? I researched my options, I spoke to others, and with American Collectors Insurance is where I now have my policy. What a difference. A live person actually answers the phone. She spent time learning about me and provided a reasonable quote. I'm saving hundreds of dollars and I can sleep at night knowing my baby is properly insured. Why wait until your next premium is due? Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote. Call 866-AC1-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Green at Cars Yeah. American Collectors Insurance, classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors, automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. All right, you characters, let's talk a little bit about this adventure that you're on. So I'm going to start with Tom, because something tells me he had something to do with the beginnings of this. Tell us about this great adventure you've dragged Michael on, and has he ever threatened to run her to an airport and fly home?
Not yet. This idea has kind of been tossing around in my head for, for much of my life, actually. I've never driven to Alaska. This will be my 7th trip to Alaska, but I like to conceive of projects like this going to the extremes, okay, what's the furthest east point that you can be at, and that's Key West, and what's the furthest northern point you can drive in America, and that would be Deadhorse, Alaska. Wow, that would be a heck of a trip. And so it kind of bounced around in my head for a while. What car do I take? Michael and I have done road trip books, and the most recent one was driving a Model T across the United States on the Lincoln Highway from New York City to San Francisco. And so, it's hard to top something like that. And so, maybe buy like an 80s Corvette and on Craigslist in Miami, and then sell it on Craigslist in Alaska. Maybe my Woody, a Cobra. And then I said, maybe take the car element out of it. Maybe, make it more about the trip than the car. And I called our friends at Ford, and they were, I felt like Carroll Shelby. When Carroll Shelby went to Henry Ford II, and he said, "I've got AC in my back pocket," which he didn't. If you'll supply motors, I'll put him in an AC. And then he went to AC and said, "I've got Ford in my back pocket," and he didn't. Well, I felt the same way with Ford and Airstream, but it all kind of worked out. And I think we're all having fun, including people in corporate headquarters watching our travels.
Yeah, you guys have been documenting this, and thanks to Michael, of course, and his prowess with online media and picture taking, which he does so well. Michael, this is another trip with this car. Obviously, the first trips you took with him, you guys had a good time, but this one's a little different. You pulled up, I don't know why my security guard let you in here, by the way. I told him to just tell you I wasn't home, but they let him in the gate.
He recognized my blue glasses. That's what he said. I know you.
No, I think it was the bottle of rum you slipped him, is what it was. But at any rate, we always say we had a guy named Jack in the Shack who was always on his back drinking at night. But that's another story. But Michael, this trip for you, you guys are sleeping in a trailer. You're the back roads of America. You've been hosting your mug of the morning, which is cool. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on this trip.
Well, when Tom presented the trip, as he does every time, I think he's absolutely crazy. But then I also know after doing 5 books with him and 5 previous books with him, that it's usually a blast. Tom comes with crazy ideas, and the opportunity is just, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah.
Because there's every day we go out there, it's something new. It's totally organic. It's totally random. We don't know how we're going to start. We don't know where we're going to end. And that's exciting. It's a cool thing to do. And I don't know where else you're going to get an opportunity like that. So, based on the fact that, previous experience, we went into this thing and, we both know that we have each other's back too. We know how to do this. You go into it, and between you and me and the rest of the world who's listening right now, I wouldn't be in a trench with anybody else but Tom Cotter. He's got your back. So we go out and we do it, and we have a blast. And I've got to tell you, the people that we meet, the people we've met in this project along the road, and the stories that we have already are the type of thing that people won't experience in a lifetime.
Yeah.
But here we have, through our various sponsors and that sort of thing, that's letting us go out there and tell this story about America and what it's really like out there right now in this moment. And it's a killer experience.
Well, this country is so unique because it's so vast and broad and big, and there's so many different cultures really throughout the country, depending on where you land. And I love the fact that you guys are not going on the main highways. You're the back roads, the little cafes, the diners, all this stuff. Tom, what are a couple, maybe you can share a few very interesting experiences you've encountered on this trip so far?
Well, based on staying off the interstates, you can get on the interstate highway in North Carolina and drive it to California on I-40 or I-80, and every exit's the same. Every exit's got the same franchise restaurants. So taking 2-lane roads across the country in a big diagonal fashion, staying away from cities, you meet people like Cindy, who at a diner in Alabama, which is rated as having the best food in town because, well, there was only 2 places in town that served food, and she's worked at a diner for 50 years. She's 65 years old, and she's worked at this particular diner for 13 years. And once she found out that we're doing a book, she brought us, an extra glass of iced tea and a cherry cobbler and all this free stuff. And she just sat there and told us about her life, about her grandchildren.
Yeah.
And, she's never been interviewed. People don't come off the road and interview her. The people that go in there are the local farmers that live in that area. And so we can bring a little bit of life to that lady's life. It has been an amazing event where people in the middle America, they're not bringing up politics at all. It's all about Americans just going through the motions of everyday life.
Yeah.
Blue collar, hardworking, proud people.
Yeah, it's wonderful when you stop and ask somebody about themselves, and especially big cities are kind of different. Not to put them down, but sometimes people are cold and isolated. I know just north of me here, Seattle, there's this thing called the Seattle Freeze, where they talk about nobody looks at you or talks to you, and I think there's a lot of big cities like that. But when you get into small towns and you walk in, and you just smile at somebody, it opens some doors, right, Michael?
Oh yeah, Tom brought up a really good point. It's the type of thing. I think it's it's a give and a take. I mean, we're experiencing their life a little bit, and at the same time, they're kind of looking at us like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're genuinely interested in what we're doing too. So there's really a wonderful exchange that happens between in these brief moments that we come together. And I think that's the good thing. I mean, we're coming into their life, and they're coming into our life for this brief moment, and hopefully we put as many smiles on their faces as they're putting on ours, as we go through this.
So, Michael, tell me maybe one interesting, because you've had so many interesting experience that you've encountered that kind of put you back a little bit and went, wow, that was cool.
Well, some people know, some people don't realize that I was a musician for a long time. And as we were going into Alabama, I turned to Tom. I said, we got to go to Muscle Shoals. And he looked at me, he's like, tell me what you're talking about. So we went to the recording studios. There's a whole story. If you Google Muscle Shoals and learn about these session players in this incredible studio and the amount of hits that came out of this little small studio room, we had the opportunity to take a tour in there, and the vibe in that room for me was just incredible. I walked. It was like, okay, this is so I'm a hot rodder that's been to Bonneville, and now I'm a musician that's been to Muscle Shoals. A really cool experience. And then, and Tom will tell you, I mean, it's just one thing after another. We have so many. Tom, I don't know. We could expand for, I don't know how long you want the show and how much we want to give away, but that was just one little cool thing for me, and something I will never forget.
Yeah, it's cool. Well, Michael, I've known you for about 7 years now. We run into each other at car events and photo events. We were talking about when we were last at the last Rennsport, and you and I were together with Jesse Alexander, the great photographer who we lost not too long ago, and together, and a great picture and thoughts and talking. I'm standing here, and I love photography, but I'm nowhere near as talented as you and Jesse, but I've known of your photography forever, and every time I pick up a Porsche Panorama or another book, I always go, oh, that's a Michael shot. I just know that. So I've enjoyed having you around. It's been great fun. And, for you, Tom, of course, I've got all your books, and you've been on the show so many times. And we're going to talk a little bit about this next book after our commercial break coming up here in a little bit. But for you guys, and you can start in here, Tom, the essence of this trip, what is really behind this trip? What do you want to accomplish? Is this for a new book? Is that your goal?
Yeah, this will be a book, and actually the book, we're so far ahead of the game. It's already got a title, a subtitle, publisher, and everything's in place. But the name of the book is America's Greatest Road Trip. That's the title, and the subtitle is Key West to Deadhorse. And so it's a book. We're not the first people to make this trip, but it appears to be we're one of the first people to document it and write about it. So I feel proud, and I think what Michael brings to the table is outstanding photography, and I'll try to match that with the words, and hopefully give people take 1 million people along for the ride with us.
Well, I tell you, I was really happy when Michael contacted me on Saturday, and he go, "Hey, Mark, are you up here?" And there was a car show locally. It's about an hour and a half from my house, but it was up at St. Michel Winery. It was with the Avance Group, Adam Kramer's publication. He's been a guest on the show, and I've had several people who work in the Avance program now. That whole thing has grown, and they had a car show on Saturday. And Michael, unfortunately, I was going to go. In fact, they invited me to bring my Orange Crush, which, as you two know, the morning you left, sold on bringing a trailer. That's another story. They could see me biting my nails that morning when they were here. But Michael said, we're in the neighborhood. Maybe we get together. And so I said, yeah, for sure. And I hung up and I said, hey, Jill, these two guys have been on my show. They're here. They want to get together. And she goes, oh, are we going to go out to dinner? And I said, they've been on the road forever. Why don't we cook them a home-cooked meal and offer them to stay the night and take a shower because they probably smell terrible. And, and so she said, now who are these guys? And I said, well, they're guests of Cars. Yeah, they're family. And she went, okay, that sounds like fun. And, and you guys pulled up and, I tell you, it was so much fun to have you here. We really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad we didn't disappoint on the smell factor.
Yeah, you were great. Yeah, but we got 2 showers, so they scrubbed down well, by the way, audience. We didn't have to hose them off before they came in the house.
It was nice to have like a little family involvement, after having just been 2 of us on the road and a bunch of strangers. It felt like we were going home for 24 hours. That was super.
Well,
It was a wonderful evening, and please thank Jill for us. I mean, that's the I know what that's like being very, everyone's got their castle, right, and everything, and all of a sudden just to be that spontaneous and invite us in, and that was something very special. So, we'll both remember that for a long time.
Well, us too, and I'll tell you, listeners, we have a couple guest rooms, my kids' old rooms. And so one of them has a bunk bed because we turned it into a room for my grandson, basically, when he comes to visit. And so I said, so which of you guys is going to climb the ladder and sleep up on the bunk bed? And I think Michael drew the short straw there, but it wasn't too bad, huh?
Well, I was the youngest of 3 boys, and I was the guy that ended up with the bunk beds.
Yeah.
And I was a kid, and I always slept on the top one. So it was just like, it was like old home week all at the same time. You really made me feel like I was at home.
Well, that's good. I told Jill and I told Michael, I said, well, if we hear a crash at night, he's falling off the bunk bed. And she said, well, he said he slept on it before, so he'll just have to figure out how to get back up and get back up there. So for sure. And then, of course, we all woke up to no power, which was kind of a bummer. But I told these guys, listeners, that's how we get rid of guests. We just turn the power off. Works really well. Yeah. We're going to take a short break and thank our sponsor. To come back, I want to talk about this new book because you guys were so kind to leave this book with me. The new book, Secrets of the Barn Find Hunter by Tom Cotter, of course. It's got introduction by Michel Haggerty. He's been a guest on the show before, and Haggerty is one of the sponsors of your guys' venture. Ford Motor Company, of course. Motor Books published this book. Airstream's another one. So sit tight. We'll be right back, and we're going to learn some secrets if you want to get out there on the road and find your secret car. We'll be right back. You listeners know I've been into car care my entire life. I am so excited to team up with AutoGeek in 2022. AutoGeek.net has been a leading source of auto detailing products, accessories, and expert knowledge for more than 20 years. What started in 1997 as a mail-order catalog company has grown into a multi-website based e-commerce store that they are today. With a large online presence on its own website featuring close to 100 different brands, AutoGeek has grown to be the largest car care retailer in the country. AutoGeek's wholesale program serves accounts in over 30 countries, and its retail sector ships worldwide. Go to AutoGeek.net for the best product selection on the internet today and their stellar technical support. AutoGeek.net. It's where I go for all my detailing needs. That's AutoGeek.net. I've discovered Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions. Ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. If you're listening to this program, there's a pretty good chance you believe what I believe, that the collector vehicles we love are more than just a means of getting from one place to the other. They're a part of our culture, our identity, and as a people, they bring us together at vintage races, classic car auctions, and 1,000-mile rallies. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these important vehicles aren't lost to time. RPM stands for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, and their goal is to inspire the next generation of vehicle restoration professionals through its outreach programs. And they include Shop Hop, Off to the Races, the RPM Future Class, and many others. These programs engage talented young people across the country and connect them with mentors and a variety of opportunities in the industry. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of collector vehicles skilled trade, visit rpm.foundation today. So we're back. So I want to talk more about this book because since you've left, I've been able to sit down and spend some time going through it. And you give up a lot of secrets of how you've spent a life, Tom, and you, Michael, tagging along and taking pictures and learning from him of how somebody goes about and finds cars in barns. Now, I did take you out in my garage and you got to the little barn find of my Orange Crush that my listeners have learned about. And did the car hold up to your impressions of what you've heard about it?
Wow. You know, if I had that kind of loot, I would have been bidding on it Sunday morning. It was an amazing car, and the paint had such depth to it. I didn't know it was metallic. I didn't know it was a pearl. It was fabulous, and I feel glad you sold it. I feel sad you sold it.
Yeah. Well, that's the way we all feel when we let cars go, right?
Yeah.
To me, cars are like friends, and it's hard to get rid of a friend like that.
Yeah, well, it's been in our family for about 13 years, so definitely so. So let's talk about this book. Now, you're giving away secrets in the book that you've known because you are the barn find hunter. So maybe we talk a little bit about some of those secrets because the way you put this book together is kind of unique. It was different than what I thought it was going to be. So walk us through a little bit of what the book's all about.
Well, people have said, "Oh, aren't you? You're giving away these secrets. Aren't you afraid that people are going to run away with all these cars?" Well, first of all, I don't want to buy any more cars. I've had enough cars. To me, the hunt is as rewarding as the find. Finding the cars is rewarding as owning it. I don't need to own it, so I'm not worried about people taking my these ideas, these tactics, and finding cars because there's plenty. I can't stress this enough. There are so many cars that have yet to be discovered. The ones that are sitting outside, well, they're kind of easy to find. The challenge is finding the ones that are inside and they're less exposed to elements and they're probably in better shape. But, what I've tried to write down in that book is tactics that I've used since I was a kid. I mean, this is not anything new. It's stuff. These are things that I started to do when I was 12 years old, riding home from school on the bus, and I'd see a car in somebody's driveway, and then I'd go back on the weekend on my bicycle and talk to them. I couldn't buy it, but it was, wow, I was finding cars. It all started out, Rod and Custom magazine had a column called Vintage Tin. And here I'm a kid on Long Island, surrounded by rust, and I'm just so jealous of these guys on the West Coast because they're finding 32 Ford Roadsters behind barns, and they're rust-free. Plus, California guys had beautiful girlfriends, they had surfing, and they had Coors beer. They had everything I didn't have on the East Coast. So, and finding old cars was just a part of that. And so there's plenty of cars out there, and I think I've given enough tips about how to go about finding them. But the biggest one is you've got to sell yourself. You've got to be a salesman. If you want to buy that Camaro Z28, that guy's carport, he gets approached by all sorts of people every week. But if you can sell yourself as a worthy next custodian of that car, you have a better chance than somebody just knocking on the door and yeah, you want to sell it? Yeah. So that's you have to be a salesman.
Yeah. Michael, you've tagged along with this character, Tom, here for a long time. What are some of the tricks and tips you've learned watching him in action?
Well, the thing with Tom is that he just doesn't stop. He is so genuinely excited about what he does that he can't stop it. He's like that kid. I could picture him as a kid on his bicycle or his skateboard or whatever it was, trying to find cars. And that's exactly what he's doing today. I've mentioned that his neck turns left or right farther than anybody I've ever known. He can spot a car from farther away than the tiniest little detail. He'll be go like, oh, that's a whatchamacallit. And next thing you know, we're doing a U-turn. And when we get to these places, he's just so genuine. We have a routine when we pull into someone's driveway, and it's basically Tom becomes the salesman. Mm-hmm. He goes out there and he approaches them. He has certain things. He keeps his hands out of his pockets. He takes a nice, slow pace and has to go in and, he's walking in cold. I mean, right. Especially, it's tough to walk into a driveway. You don't, I've seen a dog go after him. We've had, we've had our moments, where people aren't all that friendly, but, he is that salesman and he's still that kid that's looking for the cool car.
Yeah.
And that's just a genuine organic thing with him, and you can't take it away from him. And he's had a tremendous opportunity to share that with other people.
My wife Jill has not met you guys before, and I know you guys, but she said after you left, she goes, "What fun guys! I mean, they're just so easy to talk to." And she's not really much of a car gal, but she said, they didn't overload me with car talk. You guys asked some great personal questions of Jill, where she lived and grew up and what happened, and I think that's what's great about both you guys. You have a genuine interest in people, and there lies the secret. And Tom, you said something to us when you were here, because we walked in the garage. Both my cars, my M3 and the Turbo, were covered. And you said something about, I can always kind of play a little game. I can tell what's underneath a car cover. And you told me about one car that somebody said, oh, you'll never guess this one. But you guessed it, right?
If I go into a building and there's a car covered there, and all covered with dust, and it's got a car cover that's been on it for a long time, and the owner wants to pull it off to show me the car, I said, no, please don't. Let me guess what it is. And, it's kind of easy if it's a Jaguar E-Type or a 53 Corvette. You could feel the headlight grills on the front. You could feel the teeth on the grill. That's not hard to do. Or, a Pontiac, you can tell by the taillights and the grill. So there are telltale marks that you can feel and look and kind of search with your fingers. But this guy said, you'll never get this one. You'll never. I said, oh, yeah? Let's see. So, it was a sports car. It was a hard top. It had a pointy nose, a pointy tail. I kept on feeling around the headlights, the grill. And after a while, and this is all on camera guys are in there. My camera crew from Haggerty is there, and they're filming this, and I'm on the bubble. And I said, okay, this is going to be a crazy one. But this is... in Italia, /Omega /Griffith.
Whoa.
And he said, oh my God, that's what it was. Well, there's probably 10 of those in the country, but I kind of knew it. My fingers have eyes.
Yeah. Well, you've been around a lot of cars. I like to ask all my guests a question about one special vehicle in their life, a story. You've had many, many, Tom, but could you maybe just for today pick out, let's say, I'm going to narrow this down to this trip you've been on. Has there been one car you've come across that kind of tugged on your heart a little bit so far? Because you're not in Alaska yet. You're about halfway there. So we're in the Northwest now. So,
yeah, I have to tell you, this book and this trip is not about finding old cars. Although we are finding old cars, it's about road trips. But if we see a cool car, we'll stop. If we see a Cars and Coffee, we'll stop. But it's also about farmers and waitresses. But. I would say not having stopped looking at cars. I guess the one that jumps out at me is in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Driving around pickup truck land. There's a Porsche. Oh my God! There's a Porsche up on a hill in a guy's yard. So we pull up there, and it's a 912, 1966, 100% complete. 35 years left outside. Much of that time in a grapevine. He said you couldn't see it when the leaves were in bloom. Sad case. It could be, 10 years ago you would have thrown that car away. Now it's worthy of restoration. But, cool story, friendly man that had it. So that's the one that jumps out at me right now.
Cool. Now, Michael, when you were here, you pulled out your phone. You got a new car in your garage you found that's pretty darn cool, and it ties back to somebody who's been on this show before. Tell us about this cool ride you've acquired.
Well, I'm, I just got, I I spotted this car about 8 years ago when I was visiting Steve Moll's shop. And I walked in there for the first time, and I was like, wow, it's a really cool shoebox out there. And Steve goes, oh, yeah, that's my son's car. That's his daily driver. I'm like, okay. So about 2 months ago now, time is going quickly, I stopped in to say hi over there, and I spot the car not in a normal parking spot, and it's across the street in the metal shop, and it's surrounded by a bunch of other cars with a layer of dust on it. And Michael comes walking in, and I said, Michael, what's going on with this car? He says, I've got too many cars. I said, well, listen, if you ever want to sell that car, you have to talk. He goes, I'll sell it to you right now. And so, I have taken possession of a really super cool 51 Club Coupe, which everyone calls a shoebox Ford. It does have the back seat. The Club Coupe has the back seat. A lot of them were also known as businessman's coupes. It did not have the back seat. But I mean, Michael just dialed that car in just so subtly and so nicely. Removed a lot of chrome. The stance on it is just right. I love the fact that it has incredible curb appeal, but it's all old school. Underneath it all, it's still a 6-volt. It's a flathead V8. It's 3 on the tree. It's got dual exhaust with glass packs on it. And it's, when I was on a trip with Tom, I was like, I couldn't wait to come home and start the car. So I think I'm going to do that as soon as I get off this call.
Yeah, it's a sweet ride. I mean, he showed me some photos of it. I'm like, oh, it just has a neat, well, of course, Mole, I mean, that whole shop, what those guys do. He was a very early guest. It's been a long time. I need to get him back on, or maybe his son would be a good one to have on as a guest here. But it's a beautiful car. I love the color, kind of a silvery blue light. Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's just
real light blue metallic.
It goes with the blue eyeglasses that Michael always has on. He's got those blue eyeglasses, and it to me, when I looked at you and that picture and knowing that's a good car for you. Yeah, you see cars with people. It's like it's like Tom with a Cobra, and they just go together, right?
Right.
They gotta be. So. This journey, back to the journey. So you guys are in the Pacific Northwest. You're going to park the rig for a little bit. You're heading back to your homes, and then you're going to come back and go the next giant leg of the journey. When will that be happening?
Well, yeah, we divided the trip into 3 legs. And so we've just completed the first leg, Key West to Seattle. And we'll take a month off. Michael has his personal life to take care of. I have my personal life to take care of. And we'll meet back here mid-July, and the second leg will be from Seattle to Fairbanks, Alaska, up the Alcan Highway, and then we'll go immediately to the third leg, which is the roughest part of the trip, which will be Fairbanks to Deadhorse. Which, if you ever watch the show called Ice Road Truckers, you've seen how rough conditions can be for these big rigs, oil trucks, and whatever driving back and forth on this icy road. We'll be driving on that road, but it won't be ice. It'll be potholes and gravel and rocks and broken windshields and flat tires
and moose.
And so we're gonna leave
bears.
The Airstream trailer parked in Fairbanks. Oh, grizzly bears, polar bears. We're gonna leave the Airstream trailer parked in Fairbanks and just take the Bronco up, because I'm afraid if the trailer breaks in some way, we'll be 200 miles from a welding shop. It won't be a good day. So we're gonna just rough it in the truck.
Wow. Well, this will be pretty cool. And with this next leg, how can people follow along this great adventure? Because I've been following you. I've been watching your posts and so forth. And you guys have garnered a lot more viewers along this trip too, right?
Yeah, that's Michael's world right there.
Yeah, Michael, tell me about that. Because when you were here, you went, whoa, look at this. Where did all these views come from and these watchers?
Well, it's we've been sharing a lot on. It's easy to find Tom if you're on Instagram at the Barn Find Hunter, Tom Cotter. If you put in those, you're going to find him on Facebook on Tom Cotter, and you can find stuff on my Instagram account as well at Michael Allen Ross. And we've been putting in different posts. We've been putting in stories and all that thing along the way. And people seem to be very engaged. The reason we're able to stay on top of this is because we've really kind of put some things together. We're you imagine there's 2 front seats in this Bronco, and we're cruising, and at the same time, whatever we've just shot or what we did last night is going up, in, almost in real time to let people know what we're doing, and people are just loving it. Makes it feel like they're along for the ride. And it's great because we feel like they're along for the ride too, because they're sending in comments and that sort of thing. And Tom has also got a couple other things going on in his that are out there that his numbers are soaring right now. But it's so rewarding to see that people are engaged and excited about what we're doing. That's the cool thing.
Well, you're making it fun. Like I mentioned, your morning mug shots. And I'll tell you, listeners, we put some car mugs out for the guys on Sunday morning for coffee. And, of course, Michael went right to the Rensport mug. That was the first one he grabbed. So, yeah, that's mine. That's one. You were nice enough to post a post of the mug here at Cars Yeah headquarters, Casa Verde, as we call it.
Yeah, it's become my little thing. I've got a coffee zone, So Tom's been really trying to. He knows that Michael needs his coffee, and he's embraced that. And we go out and find really cool. We found the coolest coffee shops across the country. They're everywhere, and it's really such a great community. The coffee people come together, and we've found some great stories there as well.
Oh, absolutely. I always ask my guests for little parting words of advice or wisdom. I'm going to start with you, Tom. When you think about this trip so far, what is maybe a word of inspiration or advice for people that maybe aren't so brave as you to go out and try something like this that might get them to go out and get in their car and drive across this great country, or even across the other side of their city or somewhere and sit down in a coffee shop and talk to some people? What would you say to them?
Well, I think that it's part of the American dream is road trips. And, if you think about the early settlers going across the country in wagons, and you think about Chevy Chase in the movie Vacation, and, road trips are just part of America. I don't think people in Italy or, in England necessarily do road trips, or at least anywhere near the scale we can. So we have this amazing piece of property called the United States. And if you can do a long trip, do it. But if you can only do a short trip, do that one too. There's so much to be seen. And one thing I noticed when we took the Model T trip a couple of years ago are the smells. When we get in an air-conditioned car and go on an interstate highway, we're sealed off in these little containers, and you miss the smells. Mm-hmm. But when you're driving a Model T, it's an open car, and you drive it through farm, you could smell farmers cutting hay, and you could smell the first raindrops hitting the ground, and you can go past Little League games and hear a ball hitting a bat. It's like, wow, these are things that you miss, when you drive in these little cubicles. So, open the windows, put the top down, hit the country.
Yeah. Michael, what are your thoughts on this trip so far that you can inspire some listeners to get in their vehicles? And we're coming up here in the summer. It's time to get out and go. Of course, you got to take out a loan to fill your gas tank right now. That's a little bit heavy hitting. But what would you say to listeners out there to inspire them to get out on the road and enjoy this great country?
Well, that's the thing. Just before we started this trip, I had the opportunity to travel with my wife through Europe and to some absolutely beautiful, incredible places. Great. But coming back here and getting in the car and driving America, you really start to understand what this place is. And it is like no other country out there. It is a massive, beautiful country that so many of us miss. We spoke to people in these towns that have never left their town, that have been to maybe 2 other states. Tom and I are both very fortunate that we've had the opportunity to be many places. But just getting in the car and there's so much opportunity and so many things to see within the United States. And we'd like to inspire people to go back there and do it, and my other little tip is bring a camera, but whatever it is, whether it's your phone or whatever it is, capture those moments. You're going to see things. You're going to see skies that you've never seen. You're going to see faces you've never seen. You're going to see a great cup of coffee and a piece of pie that you'll never have again. And document it, because you're going to want to talk about it. It's a great, fabulous country. And so many of us don't even know what it is. And just go out there and see it. Just do it.
Exactly. Great advice from you guys. And I'll add this. When you go to places that you've never been to, smile and ask somebody about their life. You'll be amazed what you learn. So that's a great addition. So I'm going to put links to these guys. They're easy to find at The Barn Find Hunter, at Michael Allen Ross. You can find links to their websites as well. You can find all of Tom's books on Amazon. I think there's 18 plus of them now, something like that. I really encourage you listeners to get a hold of this new book, Secrets of the Barn Find Hunter. I'll put a link to, you can do a quick, easy click to buy. It's published by our friends at Motor Books. They brought me so many great books on this show, so I want to thank them as well. Guys, hey, thanks for stopping and spending a little time here at Casa Verde, world headquarters of Cars Yeah. It was a very nice treat to have you guys here. I wish you the best of luck and fun. We'll be following you, of course. Safe travels, vaya con Dios. Thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing a little bit of your trip with our listeners today and with Jill and I too. This was tremendous. Until we talk again, I guess I'll see you guys down the road.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Mark.
This was great.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.